They are very excitable to our brain, okay? Dopamine receptors, the pleasure centers of our brain. And now these flavor enhancers are enhancing the term that everyone is very familiar with now, food noise. Hi, welcome to the Judy Terrell Show, where I explore topics intended to optimize every body 50, 60, 70, and above. Hi, everybody. I'm Judy Terrell, your lifestyle medicine coach. And today I want to talk about two presenting issues that many of my clients come to see me with. One of them is food noise in their brain, and the second one is GI disturbances, okay? I'm going to talk about how those are both related to ingredients that are now put into our foods, what to look for, what to replace them with, and then how that can help you to lower the food noise, heal your digestive system, and then help you to better manage the proper weight that you want to be in your body. All right, welcome everybody. So let's talk about the ingredients, the classes of ingredients. There's two of them that address the issues that I just brought up, okay? Emulsifiers and flavor enhancers, all right? Emulsifiers, let's talk about those first. Emulsifiers are things that are added to our foods, our processed foods, that make things combine that normally wouldn't, like oil and water, so that they can have a certain texture, a certain mouthfeel, a certain digestibility that is pleasant to us, that wouldn't be able to be done because these foods are pieces of other foods that are put together in this new food that's an ultra-processed food product that we're buying, okay? So what are common emulsifiers? All right, we see them on labels all the time and we, kind of glaze over them. All right, so I'm going to look at these so I can pronounce them correctly. So soy lecithin, I think many of us have seen that one in our foods. Mono and diglycerides, carrageenan, polysorbate 80, carboxymethylcellulose, and then xanthan gum, you've seen that one a lot. Guar gum, you see that one a lot. And modified food starch. I think that's almost in everything that we eat, right? That's processed. All right, so let's stay on those emulsifiers for a second. That's the first class. I told you what the emulsifiers do in the food. They combine things that normally would not be combined. You're not going to find any of these emulsifiers in a whole food. You don't find them in a sweet potato. You don't find them in a sprouted grain bread, right? You're going to find these ingredients in things that are already processed and oftentimes ultra-processed. But oftentimes they're what I call greenwashed. They are a product that on the front is telling you it's got 20 grams of fiber and it's got a high protein count. And because it's got added fiber to it, the carb level is now a net carb number, which is lower than the carbs, right? The front of the label will get us into these ingredients that we're not even aware of, these emulsifiers, all right? So what these emulsifiers do in the human body that is like really bad for us is they are causing GI distress, all right? Because the research is shown and showing more that the emulsifiers actually cause a disintegration and eating away of the gut microbiome. Because if you think about it, if they're emulsifying and putting things together that shouldn't go together, and then you're ingesting it into your digestive system, they can do the same thing, cause things to bind or separate that we need for our health and our well-being. And that gut lining, the mucosal layer of our gut lining, is the gateway for things that are in the digestive system that shouldn't get into the internal body. All right, so that's one of the number one problems, is that not only will it then irritate the inner lining, just like if your skin on the outside was irritated, it would get red, it would get angry, it would get inflamed, it would hurt, right? That's going on inside the gut lining, and that's a problem in and of itself. Secondary problem is that then the gut lining gets compromised, things get through the gut lining that shouldn't into the inner body, and now you've got inflammatory issues, and if you've got autoimmune problems, that's going to exacerbate those conditions. I might even argue might even be part of the cause of them, all right? But, that's conjecture on my part. Take it for what it's worth. But I wouldn't want, even if I don't have an autoimmune problem, things that shouldn't get into my inner sanctum, so that my immune system is now going crazy trying to, kind of fight the enemy within. Right? So emulsifiers, the ones I just mentioned, they are bad for us because they're not good for the gut lining of our digestive system. All right, now let's talk about the second category of the additives that I'm addressing in this video, and that is the flavor enhancers, okay? So again, let me read you flavor enhancers. Monosodium glutamate, MSG. Yeast extract, autolyzed yeast extract. I see that a lot on labels and on what are seen as very healthy foods. Hydrolyzed soy protein, hydrolyzed vegetable protein. Now, they don't sound very chemical, right? They sound vegetable protein. That sounds innocent, all right? But these are things that are put in the food to enhance the palatability of them, to make them taste better to us. And so those flavor enhancers, if you are sensitive to MSG, anyone who is knows, it can cause some disruption, flushing, headaches, joint aches. But if you're not sensitive to just MSG, I am sensitive to the autolyzed yeast extract. And when I ingest things that have that ingredient in it, I have the most amazing joint aches. I have very malformed knees. And so if I ingest something that can cause inflammation, I am immediately aware of it. All right. But the main issue with the flavor enhancers is there's possibly, if you're sensitive to it, inflammatory reactions through your body. But most people don't have that. And so science is now showing that. And that makes, us think that those flavor enhancers are safe. And safe they may be, but here's the issue with the flavor enhancers. They are very excitable to our brain, okay? Dopamine receptors, the pleasure centers of our brain. And now these flavor enhancers are enhancing the term that everyone is very familiar with now, food noise, all right? The desirability for the food, the constant thinking about the food, the addictive quality of starting to eat a food and then not being able to stop. The flavor enhancers it's like adding lighter fluid to a fire, right? So the flavor enhancers are exacerbating food noise. And, food noise, humans are on a continuum. Some people have low food noise, some people have high food noise, but I would argue from what I've seen in my lifetime, right now the GLP drugs are like candy. They're being, given to everybody for from 5-pound weight loss to hundreds. You can get them online. You can get them in a prescription if you pay for them yourself. And a lot of people are using them because they say they have this food noise that they were inherited or they were born with, or it's DNA. My position on that is that our food chain and our corruption of that with these flavor enhancers that are in healthy foods as well as unhealthy foods is partly to a contributing factor to why is food noise so much more prominent now in this stage of human evolution, even more so than 50 years ago or 20 years ago. I would say to you, from my observation of 63 years on the planet and 45 of them be a food coach and a lifestyle medicine practitioner now, that they're contributing. These flavor enhancers that they're not in real food, they're in processed foods, are a significant factor to the food noise. Now, take the emulsifiers and the flavor enhancers, which are often combined in food products, and you've got a 1-2 punch to anybody who's trying to manage their weight and manage their GI tract, and then I would argue their optimal health in general. All right. So what do we need to do? We need to really, make yourself aware of the names of those ingredients that I just read to you, and I'll put them in the notes for the podcast. And then you've got to work to avoid them, and you can do it. And this is why, as a lifestyle medicine coach, I am one of the core principles that I give to everybody is, as much as possible, eat food, consume food that is in its natural state. It's in the state it would be, or as close to it as possible, if you got it in nature. You can get a sweet potato and then you can bake it or broil it or air fry it or whatever you do to cook it. That is processing right there. But The problem with the processing is when we are taking elements of foods, using chemical processes, ingredients, heating processes to break apart chemical bonds and take chemical structures out and kind of separate them, like fiber, for instance, out of its real product, and then put in just a powdered form of the fiber that's been chemically removed from its real food, and then adding that back into foods. That is not a real food, even though it's taken from a real food. And this is, I think, what's getting my clients. They're like, well, it's sourced from, a really clean source. I'm like, I don't care what source it's coming from. It's not the state that this vehicle evolved to ingest, right? So that is the thing to look at. Like, as much as possible, are you eating foods that are in the closest to the state they would be in nature? So if you want to, a strip steak and it's not been injected with things, that would be close to its natural state. You want to have beans, not, bean protein powder that has been manipulated from its natural state, right? Then the real bean is much better than the bean protein powder for this vehicle. And oftentimes, those individual components are now put together with other things like emulsifiers so that these components can go together, because they don't go together in nature. They need these emulsifiers to make it a product, right? So you can see where this goes. So conclusion here is, as much as possible, eat whole foods, not sourced from whole foods, but whole foods. I mean, that's the bottom line. And it's not as difficult as people make it up, as you may think it is. And if your food noise and your gut health is not healthy, and you've got a very high amount of food noise, I would argue the difficulty of trying to eat a little bit more of a higher percentage of whole real foods, and the discomfort of that is way less than managing that screaming food noise and a disruption of your gut lining and the pain and reduction of quality of life that and the food noise generates. All right, buddy. I hope to see you soon on another video. And in the meantime, eat real food, because lifestyle medicine is going to be your strongest, approach towards your health and well-being. It just is. And if you'd like to have access to some of my additional resources, I can be found at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on my website, www.judyterrell.com.